say how excited I am to see all of you here today. For those who are guests, my name is Kathy Hibbard. I'm the Associate Dean of the Teacher Education Program, and I am just delighted that you have joined us and joined your family member or friend or spouse or mother, whomever it is that you are here to celebrate with today. It's a big day. This is the pinning ceremony, and it's an opportunity for us to pause and reflect on the fact that you're entering a very worthwhile and very important profession. And this is a way that we can signify that. So I'm going to do a bit of a welcome. We're then going to confer the pins upon you, and you know that you are all seated in a very organized fashion, thanks to Erin Peterson in our office, who has done a great deal of work, along with the support of Song and Rebecca and Claire, to pull this afternoon off for you. So I appreciate all of their work on organizing this. Let's get started. We always begin, as you know, in this faculty with a land acknowledgement. And more than just words is kind of a reminder for all of us here at Western that when we do these land acknowledgements, we are not just telling you something that we want you to sort of glaze over while we get through it. We have made a commitment to identifying the reality of the fact that we are on stolen land. I wanted to share this picture to begin with because I think it's important that whenever you're in any area, whether you're from this area or not, that you recognize that the residential school system was here as well. This is the Mount Elgin Residential School. It was built back in 1847 near St. Thomas. And the superintendent of welfare and training described Mount Elgin's buildings as the most dilapidated structures that he had ever inspected. And they were eventually closed, but not until 1946. Now, I know some of you in this audience may think that that was a really long time ago, but in a historical timeline, that's not very long ago. And so it's not surprising that the legacy lives on and through our Indigenous colleagues and friends and families. And so I thought today I would just simply remind all of us of what the calls to action were that are specific to us in education. So here they are. There are 6 of them, and they say, we call upon the Government of Canada to repeal Section 43 of the Criminal Code of Canada. We call upon the federal government to develop with Aboriginal groups a joint strategy to eliminate educational and employment gaps between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal Canadians. We call upon the federal government to eliminate the discrepancy in federal education funding for First Nations children being educated on reserves and these First Nations children being educated off reserves. We call upon the federal government to prepare and publish annual reports comparing funding for the education of First Nation children on and off reserves, as well as educational and income attainments of Aboriginal people in Canada compared with non-Aboriginal people. And this one, we call upon Aboriginal education legislation with the full participation and informed consent of Aboriginal people. The new legislation would include a commitment and sufficient funding and would incorporate the following principles: providing sufficient funding to close identified educational achievement gaps within one generation, improving education attainment levels and success rates, developing culturally appropriate curricula, protecting the right to Aboriginal languages, including the teaching of Aboriginal languages as credit courses, enabling parental and community responsibility, control, accountability, similar to what parents enjoy in public school systems, enabling parents to fully participate in the education of their children, and respecting and honoring treaty relationships. If you have not had a look at these, I'm hopeful that some of that, especially that last slide, is really resonating with you in terms of what you've been learning in your courses. We call upon the federal government to provide adequate funding to end the backlog of First Nations students seeking post-secondary education. And we call upon the federal, provincial, territorial, and Aboriginal governments to develop culturally appropriate early childhood education for Aboriginal communities. So those are the main calls to action that impact or have action that needs to come out of education. And so we have to think about, what is it that we are doing? Well, as you know, as teacher candidates in our program, you all take a course that is designed to make sure that you are aware of our history in a way that I certainly wasn't when I was going through school. And so this is part of change. You will notice that we have changed a number of our courses across the curriculum areas. And that notion of what do we do with this information? I don't know why that copied and pasted into the middle of my slide, but anyway, what can we do? Well, there are all kinds of local areas that you can support. The Health Access Center, the Woodland Cultural Center, Altosa Family Healing Services, and the Residential School Survivors. So with that, I will acknowledge that Western is located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, the Lenni-Lenape, and the Chimotan nations on lands connected with the London Township and Sombra Treaties of 1796 and the District One Spoon Covenant Wampum. With this, we respect the long-standing relationships that Indigenous nations have to this land, as they are the primary inhabitants. All right, so meet the creature. 40 years ago, this picture was taken on an old-fashioned camera on my last day of the Bachelor of Education program, when I was packing up all my materials, all my teaching resources, my furniture, and moving from Ottawa to Chatham because I was going to start a new position. I was beside myself excited. I would say that, a lot of things were going through my mind at that time. I was wondering, what's my class going to be like? Who's going to be in my class? Are they going to like me? Am I going to know everything I need to know to have that full responsibility for a class for all on my own? These kinds of things were all swirling around in my mind as I began this career 40 years ago. Meet the Creature is a term that we coined because most school boards offer some kind of an evening early in the fall for parents to come in and meet the teacher. The teachers eventually started calling it Meet the Creature because you quickly became aware of the fact that you were being incredibly scrutinized. They really wanted to know a lot about you. Who were you? What were you going to be like? Did you yell? Most importantly, were you going to like my child? So that's why we called it Meet the Creature. Now, if you go online, you're going to see no end of ideas about what a good teacher is, right? Here are 4 quotes from 1,000 I could have put down. Everybody has an idea of what a good teacher is because everybody pretty much has gone to school. And so they are all authorities on something. One of the things that I found after this long in the profession is that I've had the opportunity to meet some of my former students, or when I talk to Students in your position and even in year 2, they'll say to me, what do you wish that you knew when you were us, when you were starting out? So I've given that some thought, and that's the topic of my little talk for today. I've decided that I would share with you kind of a letter to my 23-year-old self as I was starting my career. You finally made it. All those years of school are finally behind you, and you're ready to go out into the world and start your life and earn some money for a change. You don't realize it now, but you're going to need a lot of patience and flexibility. You will change grades, classrooms, schools, and communities multiple times over the next several years because you were one of 2 teachers hired and then no one behind you for 7. Board enrollment was shrinking and you were at the bottom of the seniority list. It was hard, but you will gain a perspective from teaching everything from French to K-8 and even secondary English that is unique and will serve you later on. When I look at this younger version of myself, in the position that you're in today, I remember the pressure to be a good teacher and to live up to the fact that you and your siblings were the first in your family to go to university. I saw you struggle with the middle-class values that seem to be adopted by the majority of teachers. You heard it in the staff room when there was talk around the lunch table about those kids and these families. And you wondered if your teachers had talked about your family in that way. You could see the discomfort some parents felt when they came in for interviews, and you realized that for them, perhaps their experience with school had not been a positive one. Parents confided their worries about their children, their anxieties, their hopes, their dreams, and the awesome responsibility of this position of public trust that you are in became real. And you started to really understand what it meant to become a professional. You remember the first time that you had a newcomer enter your class from Ethiopia. You were teaching grade 6 at the time, and you immediately thought about the Vietnamese family your parents sponsored when you were a kid, and how you realized way back then, when teaching your new little brother English, that the books we had available did not in any way reflect the world that he knew. And you felt a disconnect between the prescribed texts for this young man as an English language learner and what he actually might be interested in reading. You vowed to get to know his interests and write age-appropriate material yourself if necessary. But you started to question some of the generic decisions that were made at the board level. You remember the first time you had to call Children's Aid Society. A communication book that had gone back and forth between school and home was intended to document the behavior changes so that the new medication that the child was on could be titrated. You dutifully documented a change in behavior one day, and the child did not return to class for the next 2 days. When he eventually did, the impression from the ring on the hand that had hit him was still evident on his face. He reported as required. An investigation took place, and the child remained in the home. And you began to question society's capacity to truly care for our children. Over the next few years, as you completed a master's degree, raised your kids, cared for a chronically ill spouse, you learned that if you're going to have anything of value to give to your students, you have to learn to care for yourself. You typically resisted not acknowledging that you were not okay, but having a panic attack in class made it impossible to ignore. So, as you learned to take care of yourself and learn to manage the stress, you learned it was going to be up to you to set healthy boundaries. Care fatigue is real. You've always been one to say yes to requests, and it has led to some really exciting opportunities. But you also had to learn how to say no. for your own health and wellness. As someone who tended to be a perfectionist and an overachiever, you realized that that was a lethal combination in this profession. And you began to understand the burnout that you saw in so many of your colleagues. When you became a learning resource teacher and a board consultant for gifted education, you experienced the testing that your students would receive. And in the process, you were diagnosed with a dual exceptionality yourself of both giftedness and a learning disability. It explains so much about your own confusing and contradictory experiences in school. It could also explain why you related so well to other people's differences in learning and were committed to helping them find their way. But it also nagged at you and made you wonder how many others have been undiagnosed, have those undiagnosed needs that don't get addressed. And how are our classrooms designed to serve so much diversity? In the mid-90s, the tensions between schools and government had reached a fevered pitch. What had previously been associations and federations that had spent so much of their time developing curriculum resources were now deliberately named as unions. Discussions about teaching were reduced to talking about blocks of time, minutes. Schools became measured in per pupil spaces. Public sentiment in the media was extremely disparaging and demoralizing. But in your own school community, parents walked the picket line when the entire province went on strike and brought lunches and coffees. And you learned that this is part of what it means to be a professional, that teaching in particular is a political act, and that it is a role that everyone feels qualified to offer an opinion about. You learned how to ignore the noise and stay focused on your role, to remain professional at all times and serve your students to the best of your ability. As curriculum, reporting, and testing all became standardized and professional development became train the trainer, you began wondering what was happening to your profession. Returning to the doctoral program at the age of 40 was a huge leap. You left a hard-won job with no idea if you would have another to go to. You moved your spouse, your children, then adolescents to London and were unsure of exactly even what you were going to study, but you knew you had to keep learning. Your decision to focus on virtual learning environments, new at the time, led to a cross appointment with medical education. You had no way of knowing then that you would end up leading a team of first medical responders following the Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan, as they worked to reconceptualize a global disaster curriculum based on lessons learned in that tragedy. What this taught you was that the knowledge, skills, and professionalism that we learn in teacher education are highly sought in fields outside of schools. Your ability to plan for diverse learners coming from different cultures, speaking different languages, and using all kinds of technologies in service to learning is widely applicable and growing more so every day. Serving as Associate Dean in a Faculty of Education has given you an opportunity to meet students you taught as children and youth, and finally as teacher candidates and even graduate students. And you have heard from them as adults, years after you worked together, that your willingness to believe in their ability to learn made a difference in their lives. I could not be more proud to work alongside the excellent faculty, instructors, staff, and students in pursuit of our shared continual improvement, to make sure that we prepare all of you, our newest teacher candidates, to go out into your own professional practice journeys and make a difference in the lives of the children and young people that you will meet. Stay curious, keep learning, look after yourselves, remain professional, and welcome to the most exhausting, exhilarating, and profoundly worthwhile profession there is. Welcome to teaching. This is the exciting part. This is the part where we are going to invite our colleagues. We've got Gail Napier, who is our EXPO representative, who's going to join us. We've got Dean Christopoulos, who many of you already know, who's going to join us on stage to award the pins to you. And the way that this is going to work is I'm going to share with you our promise and pledge. Okay, so the promise and pledge is something that I will read out I will read out the promise. You will respond with the commitment in unison. And then when we get to the last line, I pledge on my honor, we will do that together as well. And of course, we're going to start that with saying my name is, and we'll all answer individually. And then we'll go ahead and get started. So once we've done this, then we will call up our individual candidates to receive their pin on the stage. And anyone who wishes to can take pictures here, and of course there's an opportunity for pictures in the front hallway at the end as well. So let's do this. Let's take a look at this promise and pledge. So let's stand up. Okay, let's begin. My name is. I'm going to read the promise. You're going to follow me with the pledge. All right, I promise to observe Faculty of Education principles of academic integrity and ethical conduct.
I commit myself to integrity and ethical conduct in all I do.
I promise to observe the standards of practice for the teaching profession as articulated by the Ontario College of Teachers.
I commit myself to my students' up-to-date professional knowledge, shared leadership, informed professional practice, and ongoing professional learning.
I promise to observe the ethical standards for the teaching profession as articulated by the Ontario College of Teachers.
I commit myself to care, respect, trust, and integrity. I pledge on my honor to fulfill to the best of my ability the promises I have made today as a teacher candidate at Western and as an associate member of the Ontario Teachers Federation.
That wasn't bad, but not all of you were speaking. Yeah. We can do better. We can do better. This is your future. So let's talk about it as if you are standing up for your future. You're putting 2 years into this future. Come on, let's hear it again. My name is. I promise to observe Faculty of Education principles of academic integrity and ethical conduct.
I commit myself to integrity and ethical conduct in all I do.
Wow, much better. I promise to observe the standards of practice for the teaching profession as articulated by the Ontario College of Teachers.
I commit myself to my students' up-to-date professional knowledge, shared leadership, informed professional practice, and ongoing professional learning.
I commit myself to my students. I promise to observe the ethical standards for the teaching profession as articulated by the Ontario College of Teachers.
I commit myself to care, respect, trust, and integrity. I pledge on my honor to fulfill to the best of my ability the promises I have made today as a teacher candidate at Western and as an associate member of the Ontario Teachers Federation.
Much better. she's not coming to pin you, she's coming to say a few words. Thank you, Dr. Hibbert.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to say a couple of words. Typically, the pinning ceremony was much earlier in the church, and give me a chance to welcome you to the profession. My name is Dawn Southworth, and I am an Ontario certified teacher. It has been the greatest source of pride for me in my career. I started my career, and I wanted to share with you what formed the basis of what my approach has been in my teaching. I started my career, and I remember distinctly getting to the end of my first week and thinking, oh, I survived. I was really excited to be in my first school. I teach high school mathematics, and I'm really glad to get to the end of my week. And on this particular week, this particular day, I don't remember, I remember the day ago. There was a lot of commotion in the hallway, something was happening. And I happened to be in the room and B.Ed on TV. And there was a lot of commotion about something really big was happening in the room. So I went into the hallway and grabbed the TV and I yelled it into the room. Is there anybody in this room that I taught mathematics to? And we turned the TV on. Remember when you were in school and there was big TVs on the cart? Turned the TV on, wheeled it in, and much to my astonishment, I didn't prepare for what was it that we watched. We watched 9/11 happening in Houston. I'm a first week teacher. We are watching one of the greatest atrocities happen in real time. We watched the second plane hit the second tower. And in my class, including me, I was not prepared as a teacher to deal with what we just saw. Never in my wildest dreams could I imagine that that's what I would have been doing in the first week of teaching. And there were students crying, there were teachers crying, the room was populating, people were coming in because they could hear the TV going, and students were praying. It's never really left me. And still to this day, I have students who see me and say, I was with you in 9/11. And it really changed the way that I taught because I was, a typical math nerd, math geek. Are there any math teachers in the room? Okay, we're really cool people. But we've got this thing about numbers. And so I really thought that, I'm going to be great at teaching math, really focus on the numbers, everybody was going to learn. And the truth is, in my career, I couldn't care less about the numbers. And that week, that particular day, really shaped who I became as a teacher. I would say that I focused more on the between things. So if it was January, it was a really beautiful day, those really hot days, those random days that you get in January. I was not going to be in my classroom teaching math. And so forever the principal was looking for us. We were out on the track, we were walking in the neighborhood. I found some way to enter their time. If there was something really special happening in the world, I wasn't going to prioritize math over the context part of it. If there was something really important happening in the child's life, I wasn't going to focus on the homework. The fact that the learning became incidental because the focus really in that first week became about the in-between spaces of teaching. In-between spaces. I believe you with anything. Think about what those in-between spaces mean. What is it really important that you prioritize curriculum over person? Almost never. Almost never. And so I really believe in this idea that I can attach the student to me, mathematics is all lives. And so I have students who, to my greatest privilege and greatest joy, I see 10, 20 years later, who say to me, I learned how to wrap 2 clock changes with you. You know me, I'm a pretty good rapper. People, what a compliment. They would say I learned quadratics with you. We learned about racism because we were wrapping teaching class changes the greatest recently. I have students who talk about learning to dance with me, because every class has to learn to dance. There's some math attached to it. This is high school. I really believe that attach the children to me, the learning will follow us. I would encourage you to think about that as you approach your teaching. Think about the fact that more important than what we're preparing them for in terms of curriculum is what we're preparing them for in terms of being human. So, if I could leave you with one parting word, there's always a song, and there's always a dance, and if we had more time, we could do it in the way, because that's literally what I'm focused on right now. Who knows the song Calm Down? Hey, you all know it. I'm not the only one calming down. So my parting words to you are congratulations. Welcome to the profession. There's nothing that I'm more proud of than being an Ontario certified teacher. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing at Western, and that you're putting in one of the most exceptional programs in the country. And as you sort of approach those tough days, I join you to think of that song. And attach the children to you, and learn will follow you too. So congratulations, and enjoy your pinning ceremony. Thank you very much. Okay, so Dale and Joanne, and you're going to have to go Rebecca, and myself will do your pinning. The lovely Claire Tattersall has been charged with the lovely task of calling out each of your names. You know you've been seated alphabetically, so you'll have a pretty good idea of when your turn is coming. And we're hopeful that with 4 of us across the stage that we will be able to move through it in a fairly timely process. Okay. I apologize in advance for any mispronunciation. I'll do my best. All right, Christian Abrams. Shams. Oh, you don't need to applaud everyone. I'll pause periodically and we'll do more enthusiastic applause. Okay, Shams Al-Hamid, Miriam Al-Obeid, Alyssa Al-Terry, or Alyssa, Alicia Alves, Reagan Allward, Stephanie Anderson, Nadal Andrego, Alejandra Arellano McGinnis, Chanel Esfahani, John Aston, Ashley Austin. Those are the A's. Let's cheer for the A's. All right. Okay, we'll move on to the B's. Sandra Bouchers. I think I pronounced that terribly. Justine Barr. Casey Barrett. Caitlin Bodden. Taylor Bedore. Kristen Ben. Dalton Bissau. Andrew Bidanovsky. Sarah Ann Birkin. Nicole Blacklock, Michael Blue, Erica Booty, Casey Bradley, Caitlin Brown, Erin Brown, Mackenzie Buckfall, Anna Burr, Justin Burr, Sabrina Bull. Those are the B's. Penelope Cardelli, Pamela Carroll, Kylie Castle, Alexandra Kavakis, Kelly Chan, Jenna Cherry, Wyatt Sholak, Hannah Chuto, Leanna Claro, Sean Goldcliff, Dakota Collins, Anna Costanzo, Jean-Claude Couture, Katrina Cohen, Crawford, Andrea Pritchard, Brayden Culver, Justine Cummings, Hannah Corridor. Those are our C's. Yay, Taylor Danzig, Maya Dawes, Aiden Dawson, Leanne D'Souza, Tanner Vistalainen, Alessia Donatia, Mackenzie Dessa, Rosalie Deschamps-Lavelle, Megan DeWeert, Sepavir Dani, Elena Didiano, Megan Dodge, Michaela Dolman, Rachel Dossman, Emma Dowd, Robin Doyle. What's that? Well, they're in the wrong place. Where are our D's? Oh, yeah, that's already? Oh, well, wait. I have to catch up. Okay, Robin Doyle, right? Is that the last one? Emma Dowd, okay, Robin. Okay, yay for our D's. Our E's, Peyton Elliott. That's the only E, yay for our E. Now to our F's. Are the F's all up here too? Okay, so you guys are super fast. Ashley Fazekis, Kirsten Fisher, Grace Flaherty, Bridget Flanagan, Morgan Flanagan, Abigail Forsey, Owen Foster, Austin Fowler, Hannah Freeman, Morgan Fulmer. Yay for our F's! All right, time to pop back up. I'm reading pretty quickly too. Yeah, walk, don't run with scissors. Also walk, don't run with pins. Okay, so Megan Gallagher, Manal Ghani, Sayed Claes, Gazimir, okay, Gazimir Said. Why aren't they walking?
They're already saying.
Keegan Gingrich? Caleb Gerard, Emily Gordon, Rachel Gillespie, Nicole Gore, Zachary Goland, Davis Granger, Emily Brandt, Danielle Grassman, Kate Greenwell, Benjamin Griffiths, Riley Grogan. Oh, and those are our G's, yay G's! James Hall, Kai Handelman, Shay Hanna, Haley Harris, Davian Hart, Alexi Harvey, Megan Harvey, Emily Cox, Shaylin Hawkins, Alyssa Hale, Vanessa Henn, Eric Hertwig, Nicole Hibbs, Chelsea Hickey, Carissa Hickson, Jenna Heemstra, Rachel Hildebrand, Mark Ho, Madeline Holder, Eric Houston, and those are our H's! Woo! And our J's, Amanda Jackson, Heather Jennings, Catherine Johnston, Alexandra Jordan, Eleanor Julian. Oh, those are our J's, not a lot of J's. Kimberly Kador, McKenna Kalkis, Cassandra Carras, Caitlin Keating, Lauren Kennedy, Joseph Kulorhajan, Jessica Kerr, Rachel Keys, Praveen Khalif, Jordan Killen, Emily Kim, Stephanie King, Rachel Claver, David Klink, Caitlin Cummins, John Toaster, Nicole Cron, Alexis Kroll, Aaron Cooper, Sarah Cooper, and then our K's! Kate Lang, Nicholas Lakovich, David Lardy, Christopher Loshway, Sarah Leckie, Christopher Luke Lee Young, Matthew Martin, Brianna Marr, Spencer Matt, Catherine McBride, Megan McClintock, Jessie McCorkindale, Jessica McDonald, Scarlett McGraw, William McHenry, Charlie McIntosh, Spencer McLaughlin, Bradley McLeod, Abigail McPherson, Patrick Matt, Preeti Mera, Jordan Meister, John Mennel, Andrea McKelly, Blair Millard, Abby Mitchell, Abdus Samad Mohammed, Caitlin Montgomery, Arjun Murthy, Leah Musavi, Larissa Mota, Nohelia Mota Lavandes, Margaret Munn, and those are our M's! Yay for M's! All right, so now we are on to our N's. Nathan Neves, Victoria Noon, Travis Norton, Ashley O'Hagan, Ben O'Girley, Alyssa Oberstowsker, Jordan Orcutt, Orko Oyon, Zachary, Zachary Pamate, Philip Palmer, Bradley Palmer, Laura Peretti, Savannah Parsons, Lady Partridge, Emma Cassian, Alex Palmer, Aiden Peters, Ariella Colza, Megan Pont, Samantha Pallas, McLean Press, Amber Price, Haley Purdy, Hannah Purser, Nicola Pisker, and those are P's! Catherine Kwan, our one and only Q! Miriam Ruffy, Tashna Ramana, Cassidy Rayhan, Madison Reed, Polly Reese, Jessica Rice, Simon Rizzi, Allison Rurwa, Brianna Rodriguez, Abigail Roche, Matthew Roast, Gianna Rondinelli, Cassandra Rook, Chantel Rowe, Sydney Roll. Those are our R's. Julia Salome, Daria Samis, Natalie Sarah, Jared Shenry, Ben Schmidt, Ben Schwartzentruber, Omar Shaheen, Callie Shantz, Rachel Sheeler, Ariel Shetson, Rebecca Scherer, Al Shorman, Gina Silva, Hannah Silva, Jacinta Silviera would watch close enough. Okay, Gabrielle Silvestri, Amanda Simpson, Claire Simpson, Mackenzie Simpson, the triplets, Emily Sluice, Whitney Small, Kyo So, Emma Soltis, Terry Song, Keanu Sousa, Mallory Springer, Seth Spry, Michael Smanga, Caitlin St. Rose, Maya St. Pierre, Andrea Stanley, Erica Starring, Catherine Steinbach, Hannah Stillwell, Sophia Stoko, Cassia Straminsky, Guinness Stewart, P. Sue, Haley Sykes, Nicole Sykes. And those are our S's! Yay, S's! Sophia Tahat, Chelsea Tang, Hyokun Tae, Eden Taylor, Samantha Taylor, Okando Tello, Albulela, Tanaja, I feel like I told Albulela, Tanaja. Taylor Thompson, Lily Thong, Tom, Elliot Thorne, Fiona Tully, Kevin Tran, Jordan Trisbizin, Jenny Tubb, Kyle Tucker, Michael Tuffin, and those are our T's. Okay, we have two special youths, Katja Owen and Brendan Uncow. Hey, for you! Sheridan Van Altena, Arden Van Houtendam, Marcy Van Weerhuizen, Adam Van Denacher, Alicia Vanderwerf McNeil, Crystal Van Reyes, Taya Veenstra, Daniela Vitesse, Matthew Villeneuve, Isabel Vitkins, Georgia Vollant. And those are the names. Yay for the beans. Okay. Chase Wade, Bradley Ward, Vanessa Watson, Asia Wazit, Emily Weber, Nathaniel Wells, Larissa Grabowski, Davis Whittington Heaney, Kelly Weeds, Brian Williams, Victoria Wilson, Brooklyn Wittenberg, Lucas, oh look, those are the W's. Yay for the W's. We have 3 Y's, Lucas Yamaguchi, Jay Yan, and Shukri Yusuf. Yay, our Y's. And the last one is, he gave me a note to pronounce his name, but his writing is not that legible. I can't read what you wrote. It's Hia? Okay, so, but Hyuk Zhang, Hyuk Zhang. No, it's not wrong.
That was me.
That's it. Oh, did I say that right? Oh, Shinting Zhang. Oh, well then I pronounced your name. I'm sorry. I think I did all right though. I literally had no. Okay, now let's do one final big cheer for all of you. Okay, big cheer, big cheer! Alright, is there somebody else
I strongly overestimated how long it would take everyone to go across the stage.
They ran.
Yeah, they ran. You were quick. So thank you everyone for coming and for sitting in your assigned seats. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we're done early, so there's a photo booth in the lobby. Take it in.